Hey guys, tonight we slip into the moonlit sands of Giza, where the great Sphinx crouches, half lion, half pharaoh, staring into eternity. Picture yourself standing at its massive paws, the air thick with desert heat, stars prickling the sky. Its weathered face looms, silent, daring you to guess its secrets. Spoiler, you probably won't crack this riddle tonight, or ever. The Sphinx has outlasted empires, and it's not spilling its story easily. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're chilling tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're trudging across the Giza Plateau, sandals crunching on sand, the pyramids jagged against the horizon. The Sphinx, carved from a single limestone outcrop, feels alive, its gaze pinning you like a bug. Why did the Egyptians build this thing? Historians peg it to around 2500 BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, whose pyramid sits nearby. The mainstream fact is that Khafra likely commissioned it, his face etched onto the lion's body to scream, "I'm divine," to anyone passing by. But the evidence is shaky. No ancient texts scream, "Khafra did it." It's mostly educated guesswork from the pyramid's proximity and some statue styles. Now, here's a quirky tidbit. Some Egyptologists whisper that the Sphinx might predate Khafra. A few rogue scholars point to weird erosion patterns, more on that later, hinting it could be way older, maybe even from a lost civilization. Sounds wild, right? Like, who's got the receipts for that? Historians still argue whether the Sphinx was Khafra's flex or something far stranger, a relic from a time we can't quite touch. You circle the beast, its paws the size of a small house, the limestones pockmarked, scarred by wind and time. Building it wasn't just a flex, it was a logistical nightmare. The Egyptians didn't have cranes or bulldozers, just copper tools, ropes, and sheer grit. You imagine thousands of workers, sweating under the sun, hauling stone and chanting to keep rhythm. The Sphinx's bedrock was already there, a natural knoll they shaped into a myth. Why pick this spot? Maybe it was sacred, or maybe Khafra just liked the view. You smirk, thinking of him signing off on this like it's his new profile pic. The desert wind picks up, and you shiver despite the heat. The Sphinx's eyes, chipped and hollow, seem to follow you. It's not just a statue, it's a statement. Egyptians love their symbols, lions for strength, pharaohs for godhood. This combo was their ultimate power move. But why so big? Why not a cute little Sphinx for the mantle? You chuckle picturing Khafra's architect pitching "go big" or "go home" at the planning meeting. The scale screams eternity, a middle finger to mortality. You pause, leaning against a boulder. The Sphinx's nose is gone. Yep, that old joke about it being shot off by Napoleon's troops. Total myth. It was probably hacked off centuries ago, maybe by someone who thought defacing it would break its power. Good luck with that. The Sphinx doesn't need a nose to intimidate. You glance at the stars, feeling small. This thing was old when Cleopatra was a kid. Its origin story's fuzzy, but that's part of the vibe. It's like the Sphinx is saying, "Figure me out, loser," and you're tempted to try. You're back at the Sphinx, its bulk swallowing the moonlight as you trace its edges with your eyes. The desert's quiet, save for the occasional gust hissing across the sand. Last time, you felt its stare, its murky origins teasing your brain. Now, you're wondering how the Egyptians pulled this off, carving a 66-foot tall, 240-foot-long beast from stubborn limestone. It's not like they had power tools or a coffee break to brainstorm. This was blood, sweat, and maybe a few prayers to Ra. The mainstream fact: the Sphinx was hewn directly from the Giza Plateau's bedrock, a natural limestone outcrop shaped over years. Workers didn't build it like a Lego set. They sculpted it in place, chipping away at the stone with copper chisels and dolerite hammers. You picture the scene: hundreds of laborers, muscles straining, dust clogging their lungs. They quarried the surrounding stone to create a trench, forming the Sphinx's body while leaving its head protruding like a proud, stubborn hill. The blocks they cut, some ended up in Khafra's pyramid nearby. Talk about recycling. Here's the quirky bit. Ancient Egyptians might have used kites to move smaller stones. Yeah, kites, like the ones you flew as a kid. Experiments suggest they could have harnessed wind to lift blocks, easing the grunt work. It's not proven for the Sphinx, but imagining workers kite surfing stones across Giza makes you grin. Historians still argue whether the Sphinx's construction was a single project or a multi-phase job, maybe even tweaked by later pharaohs who wanted their own stamp on it. You squat near the Sphinx's paw, running your hand over the rough stone. The effort was insane. Tens of thousands of man-hours, maybe more. Workers lived in nearby camps, chowing on bread and beer, the ancient equivalent of energy drinks. You chuckle, picturing a foreman yelling, "Less chatting, more chiseling." The tools were basic, but the precision? Unreal. The lion's body flows smoothly, curves deliberate despite the stone's resistance. They didn't just carve, they engineered, aligning the Sphinx with the rising sun for that extra divine flex. Your gaze drifts to the head, Khafra's supposed face staring blankly. The carving here's finer, smaller tools, steadier hands. The royal headdress, the nemes, clings to the stone like it was molded yesterday. But the face is damaged, pocked by time and vandals. You wonder about the artists. Did they sketch plans on papyrus or just wing it? No blueprints survive, which is maddening. It's like the Egyptians built this to flex on future archaeologists. Good luck reverse engineering this, you mutter, smirking. The wind kicks up, swirling sand around your ankles. You imagine the noise of the worksite, hammers clanging, workers shouting, maybe a priest chanting to bless the job. The Sphinx wasn't just art. It was a statement, a god king's ego in stone. But the how-to details are fuzzy. No ancient diary says, Day 47, carved left paw, sent Bob for more chisels. You stand, stretching, and notice the stars shifting. The Sphinx doesn't care about your questions. It just sits, smug, as if it knows it took a civilization's worth of grit to birth it. You step back, the scale sinking in. This wasn't a weekend project. It was a generational grind, a testament to Egypt's obsession with eternity. You joke to yourself, maybe they finished early and threw a Sphinx-done party with extra beer rations. The truth? They poured their souls into this rock, and it's still here, daring you to figure out how. You're still at the Sphinx, its silhouette a dark riddle against the Giza night. The sands cool under your feet now, and the stars feel closer, like they're eavesdropping. You've seen the effort it took to carve this beast. Workers sweating, chisels sparking. But why this weird mashup? A pharaoh's face on a lion's body? It's not exactly subtle, and you're dying to know what it means. The mainstream fact, the Sphinx's hybrid form, screams Egyptian symbolism. Lions were the ultimate power vibe, fierce, solar, unstoppable. The pharaoh's head, likely Khafra's, claims divine status, merging human rule with godly strength. It's a propaganda statue on steroids, saying, I'm king, I'm eternal, don't test me. You picture Khafra nodding at the design, thinking, yeah, this'll shut up the haters. The lion-pharaoh combo was meant to awe, and it still does, even with its nose AWOL. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some locals back in the day might have thought the Sphinx was a literal god, not just a statue, but a living deity chilling in the desert. Old Kingdom texts are mum, but later records hint at offerings left at its paws, like it could grant wishes or curse your crops. You snicker, imagining someone bribing the Sphinx with extra goat meat for good luck. Historians still argue whether the Sphinx was purely a royal ego trip or a sacred figure tied to the sun god Ra. You circle the Sphinx's massive form, the lion's haunches smooth despite millennia of wear. Lions ruled Egypt's mythology. Sekem, the word for power, literally means lion. Pair that with a pharaoh's face, and you've got a cosmic flex. You imagine priests at dawn, chanting as the sun hits the Sphinx's eyes, tying Khafra to Ra's daily rebirth. It's theatrical, sure, but Egyptians ate that stuff up. You grin, picturing a tourist back then snapping a mental selfie with it, totally starstruck. The head's details pull you in. The Nem's headdress, striped and regal, screams pharaoh. But the face? It's vague, eroded, maybe even recarved by a later king. You squint, trying to see Khafra in it, but it's like a bad Tinder profile pic. Could be anyone. The lion's body, though, is unmistakable, crouched like it's ready to pounce. You wonder if it spooked invaders, this giant cat staring them down. Probably. You'd run, too. A breeze stirs, and you hug your arms, feeling the desert's chill. The Sphinx's form wasn't random. It's a code. Lions guarded sacred spaces. Pharaohs guarded Egypt. Together, they're a back-off sign for mortals and gods alike. But why a sphinx at all? Other cultures had winged bulls or snake gods, so why this? Maybe it was Egypt's brand, like their version of a logo. You chuckle, imagining a scribe pitching, "Sphinxes are trending, boss. Let's do it." You pause at the tail, curled neatly against the stone. The symbolism's deep, but it's also flexy. Khafra wanted to be remembered forever, and this was his shot. You respect the hustle, but it's wild to think one guy's ego spawned a monument that's outlived him by 4,500 years. The Sphinx doesn't care about Khafra now. It just watches, its meaning shifting with every civilization that gawks at it. You glance up, half expecting it to wink. You're still crouched near the Sphinx, its lion bulk looming like a sleeping giant. The Giza night hums with quiet energy, sand whispering under your feet. You've puzzled over its lion pharaoh vibe, that in-your-face symbolism. Now, you're wondering, what's this thing guarding? It's not just sitting here for the aesthetic, right? The Sphinx feels like a bouncer at some cosmic VIP club, and you're dying to know what's behind the velvet rope. The mainstream fact: the Sphinx likely protected the Giza Plateau, especially Khafra's pyramid complex. Positioned east of the pyramids, it faces the rising sun, a stone sentinel for the pharaoh's eternal afterlife. Egyptians saw it as a guardian, warding off threats, human, spiritual, or otherwise, to the sacred necropolis. You imagine it glaring at tomb raiders, daring them to try their luck. Spoiler, most didn't. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some ancient texts call the Sphinx Horus of the Horizon, linking it to the god who embodied kingship in the sky. Locals might have believed it literally kept chaos at bay, like a divine watchdog. You smirk, picturing priests tossing offerings at its paws to keep it from going feral. Historians still argue whether the Sphinx guarded just Khafra's tomb or the entire Giza site, maybe even doubling as a cosmic gatekeeper. You stand, brushing sand off your knees, and take in the view. The pyramids loom behind, their sharp edges softened by moonlight. The Sphinx's gaze points east, locked on the horizon where Ra rises daily. It's strategic. Egyptians were obsessed with aligning monuments to the sun, stars, anything that screamed eternity. You picture Khafra's architects squinting at the sunrise, arguing over angles like nerdy perfectionists. The Sphinx's job was to stand watch, ensuring the pharaoh's soul cruised smoothly into the afterlife. You wander closer to its chest, the stone cool under your palm. Guardians were a big deal in Egypt. Statues, amulets, even spells kept evil at bay. The Sphinx is the ultimate upgrade, a Lion King hybrid that says, "Not on my watch." You chuckle, imagining it scaring off hyenas or nosy nomads back in the day. But it's more than muscle, it's spiritual heft. The Sphinx tied Khafra to the gods, its presence a flex of divine protection. The desert air shifts, carrying a faint whiff of dust. You glance at the pyramids, their entrances hidden, sealed against looters. The Sphinx's role feels personal, like it's got Khafra's back even now. But what threats did it face? Grave robbers, rival kings, maybe even pissed off deities. You grin, thinking of a cosmic complaint box for gods who felt snubbed. The Sphinx doesn't blink, it just stares, its silence louder than any warning. You step back, the scale hitting you again. This wasn't just Khafra's bodyguard, it was Giza's gatekeeper, a symbol of order in a chaotic world. Egyptians believed the afterlife was a minefield of demons and judgment. Having a giant lion pharaoh on duty probably felt like insurance. You wonder if workers saluted it as they passed, half joking, half scared. Its powers faded, but the vibe lingers, like it's still clocked in, guarding secrets you'll never crack. You're lingering near the Sphinx, its stone paws sprawling under the Giza moonlight. The desert's hush feels heavier now, like the air's holding its breath. You've seen it as a guardian, staring down chaos for Khafra's pyramid. But there's something else, a whisper of mystery clinging to this beast. It's not just a statue, it's a riddle, woven into myths that make your skin prickle. You're ready to dive into the stories that swirl around it like sand. The mainstream fact: the Sphinx likely inspired tales of riddles in ancient Egypt, though no Old Kingdom texts explicitly confirm it. Later Greek myths, like Oedipus facing a riddle-spouting Sphinx, might trace back to this Giza giant, its enigmatic vibe sparking stories across cultures. You imagine travelers gawking at it, spinning yarns about its secrets to spook their kids. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some medieval Arab chroniclers claim the Sphinx held a hidden chamber, stuffed with treasure or forbidden knowledge. Locals swore it was a portal to mystical realms, guarded by its stony glare. You snicker, picturing a camel trader pitching Sphinx Vault tours for a quick buck. Historians still argue whether the Sphinx was a mythic figure in its own time, or just a pharaoh's flex that later grew a legendary aura. You ease down onto the sand, the Sphinx's gaze pinning you. Egyptians love their stories, gods, monsters, cosmic battles. The Sphinx, with its lion's menace and human eyes, feels like it stepped out of one. You picture priests weaving it into rituals, maybe claiming it quizzed souls heading to the afterlife. Answer wrong, and your demon chow, you mutter, grinning. It's not hard to see why it birthed riddles. Its silence practically begs you to guess its deal. Your eyes trace the eroded face, half lost to time. The Greeks, centuries later, gave their sphinxes wings and a nasty habit of eating riddle failures. But this one, it's earthbound, rooted in Giza's bedrock. You wonder if Egyptian kids made up spooky tales about it, like it prowled the desert at night. Probably. It's got that "don't mess with me" energy. You chuckle, imagining a teen daring his friend to touch its paw after dark. The wind hums, stirring sand across your sneakers. Myths aside, the Sphinx's real riddle is its purpose. Was it just Khafra's ego in stone, or did it carry deeper meaning? Some say it marked a sacred boundary, a line between mortal and divine. Others think it was a star map, aligned with Leo's constellation. You roll your eyes. Sounds like ancient alien fanfic. But it's fun to ponder. The Sphinx doesn't confirm or deny. It just stares. You lean back, stars sprawling overhead. The riddle vibe feels personal now, like the Sphinx is daring you to solve it. You think of Oedipus, outsmarting his Sphinx, but dooming himself. Maybe that's the real lesson. Some questions are traps. You joke to yourself, bet its riddle is, "Where's my nose?" The myths keep it alive, turning a carved rock into a story that's outlasted its makers. You glance at it one last time, half expecting it to whisper a clue. It doesn't. Typical. You're sprawled in the shadow of the Sphinx, the Giza night cool against your back. Its stone gaze hasn't budged, still taunting you with that riddle-soaked vibe from the myths. You've been chewing on its stories, but now your eyes catch something else. The weathered scars crisscrossing its body. The limestone's pocked, eroded, like it's been through a cosmic sandblaster. Those marks aren't just wear. They're clues, sparking debates about when this thing was born. The mainstream fact, the Sphinx's erosion, is mostly due to wind and sand, battering it for over 4,500 years since Khafre's time, around 2500 BCE. The harsh desert climate, scorching days, chilly nights, cracks limestone like cheap pottery. You picture the Sphinx shrugging off centuries of grit, too stubborn to crumble completely. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some fringe geologists, like Robert Schoch, claim the erosion looks like water damage, not just wind. They argue it suggests the Sphinx could be thousands of years older, built during a wetter Sahara, maybe 7,000 BCE or earlier. You smirk, imagining it chilling with prehistoric rainstorms. Historians still argue whether the erosion supports the standard Khafre timeline or hints at a far older origin, with most Egyptologists rolling their eyes at the older dates. You scramble to your feet, brushing sand off your jeans, and circle the Sphinx's flank. The stone's texture tells a story. Deep fissures, smoothed edges, like it's been sanded by time's lazy intern. You run your fingers over a groove, picturing ancient winds, carving it deeper each year. The mainstream view makes sense. Giza's a dust bowl, and limestone's soft. But Schoch's water erosion idea nags at you. Could this thing predate the pyramids? You chuckle, thinking of archaeologists fist-fighting over rain patterns at a conference. Your gaze drifts to the Sphinx's base, where the stone looks oddly rippled. Water damage would mean a wetter Giza, maybe lush with rivers when the Sphinx was carved. It's a stretch, but the image is wild. Lions roaming a green Sahara, workers slogging through mud instead of sand. You shake your head, joking. Maybe it was a beachfront Sphinx, complete with sunglasses. The evidence leans hard toward wind, though desert storms are relentless, and 4,500 years is plenty for this kind of wear. The moonlight catches a deep scar near the tail. Erosion's not just a science puzzle, it's a vibe. The Sphinx feels ancient, like it's laughing at your puny lifespan. You wonder how it looked fresh, sleek, polished, maybe painted in bright reds and blues. Now, it's a weathered grandpa, still intimidating but creaky. The debate over its age bugs you. If it's older, who built it? Some lost culture with a thing for lion statues? You grin, picturing them arguing over the budget like Khafre's crew. A gust swirls sand around your ankles, and you squint at the stars. The erosion clues don't solve the Sphinx's riddle, they deepen it. Mainstream or fringe, no one's got a slam dunk answer. You lean against the stone, its coolness grounding you. The Sphinx doesn't care about your theories. It's taken millennia of abuse and still squats here, daring you to keep guessing. You mutter, "Tough old cat," and give it a nod, like you're in on the joke. You're back at the Sphinx, its weathered bulk a silent giant, under the Giza stars. The night's deep now, the desert air sharp in your lungs. You've traced its erosion scars, those tantalizing clues about its age. But something else hits you, the sand. It's everywhere, creeping up the Sphinx's paws, like it's trying to swallow it whole. This thing's been buried and unburied more times than you can count, lost and found by time itself. The mainstream fact: the Sphinx was buried up to its neck in sand multiple times over millennia. First noted in ancient records around 1400 BCE, when Pharaoh Thutmose IV dug it out. His dream stele, a stone tablet between the paws, brags about the effort, claiming the Sphinx promised him the throne for it. You picture Thutmose, sweat-soaked, hoping for a divine PowerPoint to confirm the deal. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some say the Sphinx's burials weren't just nature's fault. Locals might have let sand pile up to protect it from invaders or vandals. Imagine villagers shrugging, bury it, keeps the riffraff out. You grin at the thought of it peeking out like a grumpy cat in a litter box. Historians still argue whether the burials were purely environmental or if Egyptians deliberately let the desert hide their guardian. You shuffle closer, sand crunching underfoot. The Sphinx's lower half looks snug, like the desert's tucking it in. Thutmose's stele is still there, chipped but legible, a 3,400-year-old flex. You imagine his crew, shovels in hand, cursing the endless dunes. The story goes, he napped here, dreaming the Sphinx begged for a rescue. Smart PR. Dig out a monument. Claim divine approval. You chuckle, thinking, bet he milked that for votes. Your eyes scan the surrounding trench, carved when the Sphinx was first shaped. Sand loves this place, drifting in faster than you can say eternity. By the New Kingdom, it was buried again. Later, Greeks, Romans, and Arabs all rediscovered it, each acting like they'd found Atlantis. You picture a Roman soldier stumbling over a paw, muttering, "What's this thing?" The desert's relentless. Left alone, it'd bury the Sphinx in decades. You kick at a dune, watching grains scatter. The burials preserved it, ironically. Sand shielded the stone from wind and looters, keeping it intact while other monuments crumbled. But it also hid the Sphinx's secrets, muffling its story. You wonder what else lies beneath. Tools, offerings, maybe a worker's lost sandal? You smirk, imagining an archaeologist's face lighting up over a 4,500-year-old lunchbox. The stars gleam, and you lean against a paw. The Sphinx's cycles of burial feel personal, like it's playing hide and seek with history, each unearthing Thutmose, Napoleon scholars, modern digs, adds to its myth. But the sand keeps coming, a reminder that time doesn't care about your monuments. You joke, maybe it likes the blanket, gets cozy down there. The Sphinx doesn't laugh. It just sits, half claimed by the desert, daring you to dig deeper. You're still with the Sphinx, its stone form a quiet hulk under the Giza night. The sand's gritty under your soles, a reminder of how it's been buried and reborn time and again. You've pictured Thutmo's Force crew shoveling it free, the desert fighting to reclaim it. Now, your gaze lingers on the cracks and patches. Modern hands have touched this beast, trying to keep it from crumbling. Saving the Sphinx is no small feat, and you're curious about the battle to preserve it. The mainstream fact: since the 20th century, conservation efforts have focused on stabilizing the Sphinx's limestone, damaged by erosion, pollution, and rising groundwater. Teams use chemical treatments and stone repairs to slow its decay, with major projects in the 1980s and 1990s reinforcing its base and chest. You imagine workers in hard hats, dwarfed by the pause, muttering about the overtime. Here's the quirky tidbit. Early restoration attempts were a bit creative. In the 1920s, some genius slathered cement on the Sphinx, thinking it'd hold up like a budget Band-Aid. Spoiler: it trapped moisture, making things worse. You chuckle, picturing the Sphinx rolling its eyes at the DIY disaster. Historians still argue whether modern fixes respect the monument's authenticity or turn it into a theme park version of itself. You wander closer, the moonlight catching fresh stone patches on the flank. The Sphinx's limestone is soft, like geological butter, and Giza's environment is brutal. Sandstorms, smog from nearby Cairo, even tourist breath. You picture conservators sweating, injecting epoxy into cracks like doctors on a stone ER shift. The 1980s crew rebuilt parts of the chest, adding blocks to stop collapse. It's not glamorous. Think scaffolding, not Indiana Jones. Your fingers graze a repaired section, smoother than the ancient stone. Groundwater's the sneaky villain here, seeping up from the Nile's underground channels. It eats at the base, turning solid rock to mush. Engineers drilled wells to lower the water table, but it's a Band-Aid on a broken leg. You smirk, imagining the Sphinx muttering, "Fix my plumbing already." The fixes are endless. Every decade, someone's patching, cleaning, or praying it holds. The desert air's crisp, and you glance at the stars. Preservation's a tightrope. Too much intervention, and you lose the Sphinx's raw vibe. Too little, and it's dust. Some purists want it left alone, letting nature take its course. Others say, save it at all costs. You picture a UNESCO meeting, scholars bickering over authentic decay, like it's a wine tasting. The Sphinx doesn't care. It's outlasted worse than bureaucracy. You step back, the scale hitting you. This isn't just about stone. It's about memory. Every patch is a bet that future generations will stand here gawking. You joke, bet they'll charge extra for the restored paw tour. The effort's humbling. Hundreds of workers, scientists, and cash keep this thing alive. But the Sphinx feels indifferent, its gaze fixed on eternity, not your scaffolding. You nod at it, half in awe, half annoyed it's so high maintenance. You're back under the Sphinx's shadow, the Giza night wrapping you in its cool grip. The desert's quiet, but the stone beast feels loud, its patched up form a testament to modern devotion. You've seen the sweat poured into saving it, but now your mind wanders to the wilder side. The Sphinx has always drawn oddballs, folks with theories so out there they make your head spin. You're ready to dip into the fringe, the bizarre ideas about what this thing really is. The mainstream fact: most Egyptologists agree the Sphinx was built around 2500 BCE, likely for Pharaoh Khafra, as a symbol of divine power tied to his pyramid complex. It's a royal monument, grounded in Old Kingdom politics and religion. You picture scholars nodding sagely, sticking to their textbooks like it's gospel. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some fringe theorists claim the Sphinx is a relic of an advanced pre-Egyptian civilization. Think Atlantis or aliens. They point to its supposed older erosion patterns or cosmic alignments with stars. You snicker, imagining little green men chiseling the paws for an intergalactic art project. Historians still argue whether these wild ideas are worth a glance or just tinfoil hat nonsense, with most betting on the latter. You lean against a boulder, the Sphinx's gaze daring you to buy into the crazy. The alien theory's a fan favorite. Books and TV specials swear it's too perfect for ancient tools. You roll your eyes, picturing a UFO hovering over Giza, beaming down a lion blueprint. Sure, the Egyptians were genius engineers, but extraterrestrial interns? Nah. Still, it's fun to play with, like a sci-fi bedtime story you don't quite believe. Then there's the Atlantis crowd, claiming the Sphinx predates Egypt itself, built by a lost super civilization. They lean hard on that water erosion idea from a few sections back, saying Giza was a swampy paradise 10,000 years ago. You grin, imagining surfer dude Atlanteans carving it between beach parties. The evidence is thin. Geologists mostly scoff, but the story's got legs. It's the Sphinx's fault, really. It looks too mysterious to be just a pharaoh's ego trip. A breeze kicks up, and you hug your jacket tighter. Another theory floats around: the Sphinx as a giant star map. Some say it aligns with Leo's constellation, or Orion's belt, a cosmic marker for ancient stargazers. You squint at the sky, half expecting a neon arrow to confirm it. Sounds cool, but the math's shaky, and Egyptologists call it cherry picking. You joke, bet they think it's a galactic GPS, too. The fringe stuff's a guilty pleasure, like binge watching a bad reality show. It stretches your brain, even if it's mostly noise. The Sphinx invites this chaos. Its silence is a blank slate for every wild guess. You glance at it, its chipped face smug. Mainstream or not, no one's got the full story. You mutter, keeping secrets, huh? Typical. The crazy theories don't solve the riddle, but they keep the Sphinx alive, a magnet for dreamers and weirdos long after Khafra's dust. You're still here, parked in the Sphinx's shadow, the Giza night thick with quiet. The desert's chill seeps into your bones, and the stars burn brighter, like they're watching you wrestle with this stone enigma. You've chased its wild theories, aliens, Atlantis, cosmic GPS, and laughed off the crazier bits. But now, standing here, the Sphinx feels heavier, its unanswered questions piling up like the sand at its paws. You're ready to face the riddle head on, to linger on what it still hides. The mainstream fact, despite decades of study, no ancient text explicitly explains the Sphinx's purpose or exact construction date. Egyptologists lean on Khafra's reign, around 2500 BCE, but it's a best guess, stitched from context, like pyramid proximity and statue styles. You picture scholars squinting at hieroglyphs, hoping for a neon sign that never comes. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some New Age folks believe the Sphinx hides a hall of records, a secret chamber with ancient wisdom, maybe stashed under its paws. It's based on old prophecies and psychic visions, not exactly peer-reviewed. You smirk, imagining a dusty librarian guarding scrolls labeled Life Hacks of Atlantis. Historians still argue whether the Sphinx's mysteries are overblown, or if something, like a hidden chamber, really waits to be found. You step closer, the Sphinx's eroded face looming. Its silence is deafening, a 4,500-year troll job. Why no clear answers? Egypt kept meticulous records, grain tallies, tax receipts, but nothing screams. Built Sphinx, cost 10,000 workers. Lion aesthetic was my idea. You picture Khafra shrugging, let him guess. The lack of evidence fuels everything. Debates over its age, its role, even its face. Was it always Khafra, or did someone recarve it later? You squint, half expecting it to morph. The desert wind hums, and you circle the pause. The Hall of Records idea, nutty as it sounds, sticks with you. Ground scans in the 1990s found voids beneath, but nothing conclusive. No trapdoors, no treasure. Still, The possibilities tantalizing, like a cosmic Easter egg. You chuckle, thinking, bet it's just a pharaoh's old laundry. More likely, the Sphinx's real secret is its staying power, outlasting empires, religions, even its own nose. Your gaze drifts to the horizon, where it stared forever. What did it see? Armies, pilgrims, tourists with selfie sticks? It's a witness to history, but it's mute. You wonder if that's the point. Maybe the riddle is the riddle. Egyptians loved their mysteries. This could be one big figure it out for eternity. You joke, worst escape room ever. No hints, no exit. The Sphinx doesn't flinch. As you lean against its base, the unanswered questions feel less frustrating, more like old friends. Who built you? Why? Are you hiding something? The Sphinx just sits, smug, letting you stew. That's its magic. It doesn't need to explain itself. You nod, half in awe, half annoyed, and whisper, "Well played, you cryptic cat." The night's grown still. The Sphinx a soft silhouette now. You feel the weight of its secrets settle, not heavy, but comforting, like a blanket. The stars seem to dim, inviting you to rest. You're not solving this tonight, and that's okay. The desert's hum fades, the world slows, and your eyelids droop. Let the Sphinx keep its riddles. They'll wait for another night. Drift now into dreams where stone lions whisper truths, or maybe just purr. Sleep well.